You don't get a lot of solo episodes with me, it seems like, anymore. I just have on so many awesome guests. Thanks for joining us. Like, it's going to be a cold open for everything, but
Man, what an introduction.
well, this is the Free Outside show, and I'm Jeff Garmeyer. I'm going to take this one solo. I want to get into a thing. Maybe it'll be a rant, maybe it'll be a uplifting podcast, but this big thing called the why. I think there's even like movies on YouTube made about it, and it's really interesting thing to me because there's this society that's so driven by like David Goggins and do hard things and prove who you are, and I think that's kind of the mindset that Cam Haines went into Cocodona with, just in seeing his stories and the keep hammering mindset. And not to like say that that's wrong. I think that's a perfectly valid reason. But a big thing that I always go back to with these types of events and why I like doing Cocodona every year is what is the intrinsic why, the intrinsic reasoning. If you were going to be told that halfway you would be unable to continue for a reason outside of your control, like maybe a medic said something, what would you have wanted to get out of that first half? If you can't prove to everyone that you're the toughest person on the planet and you just happen to learn that no one really cares, what is the real why that you would do things? If social media didn't exist and you can still go on a through hike, would you? So these are the things I wanted to just riff on today because I've had some experience with it and I've coached some athletes with experience on it. And I think it's a really interesting phenomenon because in a world that is seemingly incredibly connected, it also feels very distant from that true feeling and chasing your feelings and get clouded by aspirational content or the dreams or viewpoints of others or people telling you what's cool or jumping on the latest trend. And I've experienced this too. In maybe 2020 or so, I got over 10,000 Instagram followers, and one of my good friends texted me like, "Oh, you finally got a K next to it." And then within a couple months, I had to just take a month off Instagram. It just becomes like this pressure thing in the back of your mind, like you care about these people who care about you, but in reality, they probably only care for a few seconds at a time if you're lucky. And that's kind of why I wanted to start the podcast. I think there's a lot of depth to every single person, especially the ones I have on. So I try to ask unique questions. And I also like to share my own story on here too, is that social media does negatively impact people. I had an athlete who had a decent social media following recently, and just from the world that he's therein, and just became too much. So had to take a break from it all. And I just think that there's such an undue pressure and this push into doing something for the wrong why. Like, I know terminus photos and race finish photos and Medal Monday is really cool, but what I go back to is my worst races have been those that I just jumped in because I thought it was going to be this chance to prove myself or have something special happen or get noticed by the world. Or my worst FKTs have been the same thing, where I was at like a low point in my life and it was like, an FKT will fix this. I will get people patting me on the back virtually, saying I'm worthy and cool, and get that external validation just from setting a record. This would have been the Superior Hiking Trail just for that reason. And then the second my backpack ripped on that trail, it was like, what am I doing out here? So had a long talk with myself and walked into town, bought some good food, went out and just camped with a view, the Great Lakes right there, just enjoyed the moment rather than forcing a moment to happen. So to kind of sum it all up and to kind of move into the bulk of the conversation is I think the why does need to be that thing I had earlier. If maybe you're not going to be able to finish by like 5 miles, what do you hope to have happened in that, let's say 245 miles of Cocodona, but then something happens where you can't make it? What do you want to have happened that doesn't get included in the finish line? I think that's got to be the why and what you're out there to experience and have fun, is what happens before or after that start line and before that finish line. And the one thing I always go back to is I think there's a million great whys, but a few of the ones that I have are, number one, it can just be fun. It is okay to admit that the reason you want to do something is because it's fun. I think that there's been so much shade and pressure thrown at this concept of having fun and recreating, and when you could be working, or why can't you afford a house? You're always playing on the weekends. It's like, well, if we only get to do this whole song and dance one time, we might as well sing and dance our way along it. So fun is like the number one why. If it's fun to you and it's going to be fun throughout, definitely chase that. The other one, which I think is really cool, is like rawness and depth of character and things like that, which I think a lot of people face out there. And this isn't about being so tough you can overcome anything. It's putting yourself in the position where it is so tough that you get to make decisions, and any decision is fine. But I think it's like a really raw place to be where you don't get in life that much, because, I can just be hungry right now and go to the grocery store. It's not like I'm out of food and the next aid station is 10 miles away. We just don't get these feelings and ways to put ourselves in such a raw scenario very often, that's a completely valid why of you want to see what decisions you make when you put your mind and body in that position. And I think the other one that's a big one is the community. And I think this is one that a lot of people find in the thru hiking world. And I think more people deny it actually in the trail running space, which is interesting, because I think it's even more prevalent after seeing the Cocodona finish line with people everywhere and celebrating the final finishers. Is these events are turning into more and more community. There's more and more community out there. That a huge reason to do them, and we should really accept more as a community, is that people want to find people like them, find a community. There's people who drink a beer after races. There's people who are sober. There's people who have run streaks. There's people who are type A and go exactly by what their coach says, but they all overlap into this community. And it's really fun to have that mixture of personalities. It's very rare you get that sort of different personality system and different ways to do the exact same activity. And neither way is better or worse. This is one of the cool things about it, because we're all learning as we go. And to just be on that learning curve with people that are like-minded and value similar things, but are also very unique and diverse individuals as well, I think is a really cool thing, especially as the sport gets more and more diverse. So I think those are kind of the three pillars of fun, not fun. You want to face whatever grit, put yourself in scenarios to make those decisions when they're really hard, because you never get that chance. And community, I think, are the three pillars of the why. And the other thing I want to say is, in the social media age, there's so much like news and junk out there about everything. I was hearing some of it going into Cocodona, and I heard one, someone sent me this, and it was like, they had a line that was like, Cocodona made me, made Jeff Garmeyer. And it's like, it's funny to me and really stupid, because I think this applies to all of us, is we made ourselves all enough to go after all of these races, all of these activities of like, if this trail didn't exist, you'd be doing something else to push yourself. It's your own personality that makes yourself. And no matter if you're an elite that's getting talked about, or middle of the packer who your family at Thanksgiving has no idea what you do, it's you've gotten to choose all these paths and these ways to make yourself this certain way. No race or no trail or no activity really has. And I think that's getting lost more and more as there's this gap between knowledgeable media and actually people doing the events. So I think if you are in the media, I would encourage you to get out to races and interact with the actual community, because I think you're really losing the feel, especially seeing some of the stuff coming out of Cocodona, focusing on front of the pack, which is great, but you're getting the feel of the front of the pack through announcers who are also remote, taking a feed from people volunteering and live streaming. And the race is a lot bigger than just the front of the pack. So if you're not out there actually shooting or experiencing it or volunteering in some way, I think you're really missing out on the general feel. I know it's super exciting. Cocodona is really fun to follow, and a race where you can root for the winners over 2.5 days or so. But it really is the experience of everyone within that. So I know that there's a number of people out there that have platforms that are certainly mid-packers and stuff too. But I would just consider that there's like 350 people, and maybe like 10 of us are sharing and putting our story out there. So I think that's like a really lost fact of the whole live stream movement and the social media movement, when currency is like followers and views, and a select few get the vast majority of maybe if it's a run streaker, they have a built-in way to put content out there every day. And then a new runner might think every runner runs every day. So that's kind of the snowball and the thing that I'm just climbing up on a high horse to point at and just say that, yeah, grab information from multiple outlets. And if you're enthralled with this world, it's so cheap to fly to Phoenix and they're always looking for volunteers. I promise it'll change your life to go out to some of these races and volunteer. And now that the sport has grown so much, there are races all over the world. So there's so much opportunity to just go out, help people, whether you want to cook, whether you want to celebrate people at the finish line, pour water in bottles. Some races have live streams. They just tell you to use your phone. They give you a link and you run around and film people. So and help people at home see stuff. So I would just encourage you to look at that and get a more full grasp of the sport, especially if you're here because of Cocodona content, because I don't know, man, Cocodona content, it explodes. People love that kind of stuff. All right. Our sponsors of the podcast are Janji, JANJI.com. I wore shorts, sun hoodie, visor, Vortex gloves, all that in the race. I swapped out 3 sun hoodies, kept them dry. Their stuff works great. I wouldn't promote them if I didn't wear their stuff, and I wore it in my longest race of the year. And I'll be wearing it on the Appalachian Trail as well, and when I go for the record here in a couple months. And then Garage Ground Gear, garagegroundgear.com, marketplace for small businesses if you want backpacking gear, headlamps, power banks, it's all there. Good stuff. And finally, CS Coffee, csinstant.coffee, premium freeze-dried coffee. I wouldn't promote any of these brands if I haven't purchased them myself. And tell them I sent you. All right, this has been the Free Outside Show. It's a short episode because I'm on the road. I actually have a wedding, and then I am helping out with the Secret Project. That'll be a couple weeks. And then I've got my own Appalachian Trail record to go after. So I'm back in the thick of training and things are feeling good. I should be able to keep a normal schedule with the podcast, and I certainly will if you help me out with a 5-star review anywhere you listen to this. And freeoutside.substack.com, freeoutside.com, Free Outside on YouTube. I'm starting to put content out there. That's all I got this week, guys. Stay elite, my friends.